I'm Mandy and I'm going to show you how to make a wand just like this and copper plate the handle. Here are some of the things you're going to need. A chopstick, some string and a glue gun. And most importantly, you're going to need some of our water-resistant conductive ink. Now, it's not easy trying to make a video in this place anymore because it's like Piccadilly Circus at the moment. What with the new unit and Bob's to-ing and fro-ing and visitors are to-ing and fro-ing, I'm always getting disturbed. So I apologise in advance for some of the poor quality of the video, as I've had to hide in corners and use my tablet sometimes as well as the camera. But I've pinched Rob's workbench as he's down the factory fitting all the new workstations together. Once your glue gun's heated up, you just need to apply the glue around the end of the chopstick. And you can put as much or as little on as you want really. And you don't have to be too specific where it goes. Which is handy for me, as I'm cack-handed. So it just adds more character. So once I've done the end, that's probably enough. You can take the string and wind it round willy-nilly to make an interesting shaped handle. That's it. And then I'm going to add a little bit more glue as well. A little bit more glue. Not on the short handle. Oh. Once you've got it into a nice interesting shape, you can just leave that to dry. And then all these little knobbly bits will look like knots in the wood. So I'm going to leave that to dry now. Right, now that the glue has dried and it's nice and firm, I'm just going to give it a couple of coats of yacht varnish. You need to leave about 16 hours between the coats to give it plenty of time to dry properly. Some of this string will absorb some of the varnish. And once it's had 2 coats and it's really dry, then I will start applying the conductive ink. While the varnish is drying on that wand, I think I'll show you some of the other attempts I made at copper plating. Now, my very first attempt was this little dog. I think his name's Carl, and he's from the Despicable Me movies. And I think I had the voltage set way too high, and I had forgotten to varnish him first. But he does have a nice shiny bottom. And then I tried a minion, and I've got a close-up picture of this one, and you can see the dendrite formation there. I think I had the voltage set up to about 4 volts for that one, so he wasn't the greatest, but he does look a bit freaky. And then there's the one that Rob did to finish off my video the last time, and he has come out nice and shiny, and there is a close-up photo of that one too, so you can see that there is a tiny bit of dendrite formation, but he has successfully been coated. It's gone a bit dull because I didn't varnish him after the copper plating was finished, so if you're copper plating anything, it's a good idea to varnish it so that it doesn't oxidise. And lastly, I did this golf ball. Unfortunately, when I was polishing it with the Dremel tool, I took off some of the copper plating, so do take care when you're polishing it. And that one's got a little bit dull, but it was a very successful coating, so that's when I decided to try the wand. The varnish was set nice and hard, so I'm just applying the first coat of the conductive ink. And once that's dried under the hairdryer for 10 minutes or so, we'll come back to it. After the first coat has dried, you just buff it up with a tissue to take any loose pieces of graphite off, and then give it a second thin coat with the ink. If you stipple the brush, you can get it right into all those crevices there. And then once that's all done, you can give it another dry under the hairdryer for another 10 minutes. Now that the second coat has dried, I've noticed one or two cavities and some areas where the varnish has seeped through. So I'm just going to fill my cavities. It's oozed a bit. To keep your ink pen free flowing, I tend to keep a pin in the end of the nozzle. There we are. Right, I'll leave that to dry. Actually, I might wash that out. That's better. You may want to leave all the cavities in because it gives the wand character if you've got a few areas that are not completely plated with the copper. Makes it more steampunky. I think that'll do. Test the resistance of the wand to see how good our coating is. Right. Okay. 64. 19. We're getting quite varied readings here, and they're all pretty good. $92. Well, that's fantastic. So we should have no trouble copper plating this. Now, to show you just how fantastic our ink is, I'm going to put a sample on this bow pet here, and then we'll dry it, test it with the test the resistance, and then I'll normalise it and I'll tell you the results. Here we are. Just need a nice even layer. That's going on. It's a lovely coat. That's fantastic. Right, when that's dry, we'll come back to it and test the resistance. Now that sample's dry, we're going to test the resistance. So, oh dear, Rob's left it dirty. Let's clean it. That's it. $32.2. Let's write that down. Now, to make sure we know its actual resistance, we need to normalise it. So I need to test the thickness of the sample using the micrometer. Right, zero it. Get an average reading here. No, let's zero it again. Great. And the thickness of the bow pet. It should be 0.11. Take one away from the other, and then do a calculation. Right, so we've got 20 divided by 25 times 32.2. 25.76 ohms, and that's our water resistant ink. That is superb. I just wanted to show you just how thin this sample is. When I hold it up to the light there, you can just about see through the sample. So now I think it's time we get on with copper plating the wand. Let's go. So now I'm preparing my wand to be electroplated. So I've wound a piece of copper wire around where I want the copper plating to end. So I'm going to seal that with a bit of our water resistant ink. So I want the connection to be really good. I've got this copper wire from a piece of cable that was laying around down at the factory where Rob is. And I just stripped all the cable off and ended up with this piece of copper wire which hasn't been coated in shellac, because that's what was wrong with my minion copper plating, is the copper wire that I got on the roll was coated in shellac. That looks okay. That's it. So I'll probably leave that to dry overnight and then come back to it tomorrow on copper plating. The ink's now dry on the wand, so I'm going to check to make sure I've got a very good connection between the conductive ink and the copper wire. So I'll just test that now. That's brilliant. It gets more resistive as we go down the wand, which is to be expected. So when I copper plate it, I'm expecting the copper plating to start at the top and work its way all the way down. So let's get started with that. I'm all set up to go here, but first I'm going to explain exactly what I've done. I've used 250 grams of copper sulphate dissolved in a litre of water, and I've used some copper piping that I flattened out for the anode and connected that to the positive terminal, and I've set the volts at 0.2, as when I done the minion it looked like he had a bad infection when he'd finished, because he had a lot of dendrites. Right, so now I'm going to prepare to put my wand in, so I'll give this a little bit of a stir to mix up the ions. I don't think I'll suspend this because I think this is just about going to fit in nicely. Right, I'm going to fit that midway, or I might do it the other way. And then I'm going to connect the other electrode to the copper wire. We don't want it touching the copper pipe. That's it. So now we'll leave that for a little while, and every now and again I'll come back and agitate the mixture, and we'll see how we get on in half an hour or so. I've just come back and had a quick check, and I am so amazed at how much is covered already in less than half an hour. So I thought I'd get this quick shot of what's happened to the handle of this wand. Now look at that. That's nearly 3/4 of the way up, and that's only at 0.2 volts. Isn't that good? I've been checking on it throughout the day, and it's been about 5 hours now, so I'll just take it out and show you how well it's done. We're not far off, are we? Maybe another couple more hours and it'll be completed. I noticed I was starting to get dendrite formation at this part of the wand, so I decided to suspend it for the remainder of the electroplating. Let's take a look. It's been over 7 hours now, so let's see what's happened. Of course I've had a quick peek already, so I know. Yeah, well, that's completely coated where I wanted it to be. So I'm just going to give that a little polish up and we'll see what the results are. You can buff it up using a Dremel tool, but I've just used a fine sandpaper here, and that's come up pretty good. So I'll just show you a close-up of that, and then I'll go and varnish it. Not too bad at all. I'm a master wand maker. And here is the finished article. Isn't it looking splendiferous? It looks just like the one my great aunt Muriel handed down to me. Copper beech with a peacock feather core. You see, it isn't that difficult to copper plate a magic wand. And it's all down to this water resistant ink that I've used. And you can also use this ink to paint on antennas, paint circuits, and use it for EMF shielding. If you want to buy some, then just go to the Working Ink website. Now all that remains is for me to go and fix my glasses with my wand that chose me. My other glasses are now fixed. Well, I hope that was of interest to you. Thank you very much for watching.